session day before yesterday. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So day before yesterday, we were discussing about electronic contract. What is electronic contract and how it is different from a normal pen and paper based contract. Whether both the carry same weightage or not. So that part we had discussed. Now we will be talking about essentials of e-contract. In our first semester, under legal aspects of business, we had discussed essentials of a valid contract. There, we had discussed about the essentials or essential elements of a contract, which is a paper-based contract, which is also called as physical contract. Now, we will be talking about the essential elements which are to be present in a e-contract or electronic contract. So first one, the essentials are more or less same, only few changes are there that we will be discussing. So essentials of e-contract, first one, offer to be made. As we know what is offer, we had already studied that concept in our first semester. So one person makes an offer, other person accepts that offer, and that constitutes an agreement. When the agreement is enforceable by law, it gets converted into contract. That we had studied so far, discussed so far. Now, how it is different in e-contract? Now, offer to be made. Now, here we are talking about e-contract, which normally takes place in electronic form or on e-commerce platforms or portals or sites. Now, how it is different? Now, when, for example, when we want to purchase, say, an item from Amazon or from Flipkart or any other e-commerce portal. So if I want to purchase, say, a shirt, then when I search for shirt or when I type that I want shirt, various options are there, full sleeve or short sleeves or formals or informals or casuals. So when we select, suppose, formal shirts, various shirts are displayed, and along with the shirts, their price is also displayed. Now, when we are entering into that particular site and when we are ready for purchasing that particular shirt, the price which is displayed along with that shirt cannot be called as offer price, which is made by that e-commerce site. Or suppose I am reaching out to Amazon, I am surfing on Amazon. So that is not the offer which is made by the Amazon, but it will be called as invitation to offer. So that is the difference between what we had studied earlier and now, that when a price is displayed, the person who is ready to purchase that particular shirt cannot assume that this is the offer made by Amazon, but he should always keep in mind that this is invitation to the customer. It's an invitational price. It's just a price list which may change later on. then when we can say that yes, offer is being made by the company? When we select that particular shirt and when we receive an acceptance mail. Suppose the offer price is 800 rupees. It is displayed on the shirt that this particular shirt is of 800 rupees. Now, when I click on that particular shirt and when I proceed with all the other steps, and when I receive a mail or confirmation from the Amazon that this is the price of your shirt, or when I put that shirt in the cart, then a price is displayed. That price is called as offer, because that will be considered as final price. It may vary. So 800 can be converted into say 805, 815, 850 also. So now it is up to me that when I was searching for that particular shirt, it was showing 800 rupees. When I put it in the cart, now it is showing 850 rupees. Now it is up to me whether to go for that invitation to offer or not. Because earlier it was invitation to offer. When the price is being displayed in the cart, that we can say that now it is the offer of Amazon. So that is the difference between what we had studied in physical contract about offer. There a person is directly giving an offer, the other person is understanding that offer and giving the acceptance. But here, when we talk about e-contracts, whatever is displayed on the portal, the prices which are being displayed on the portal, these prices are always called as invitation to an offer. That means the company is inviting us to make an offer. So when we click on that particular offer and when we proceed with the cart, or we put that item in the cart and final price is displayed, that if you want to purchase this shirt, this much amount you need to pay. So that means then we can say that e-commerce portal is giving an offer that this particular item is of this much of amount. So then the person who is looking out for that particular item, he has to do the acceptance. Now, two options are available to the person. One, he can accept the offer, and the second one, he can reject the offer. If accept the offer, he can pay the amount online, or he can pay the amount as per COD, cash on delivery. So both the options are available at various sites for most of the products. So that is related to offer to be made. Next one, offer to be accepted. So when offer is accepted, the offer is accepted when we have completed the online transaction of that particular product. Because in the cart, we can see that if we want to purchase this product, we need to pay this much of amount. If we are ready to pay that amount for that particular product, we will proceed further. When we complete the transaction, then we can say that now it can be said that offer is accepted by the customer. Next one, lawful consideration. So this is very much same as we had discussed in our first semester. So meaning of consideration is getting something in return. Lawful is anything which is lawful, which is according to the provisions of law. So both the parties, that means the person who is doing online transaction as well as the company, both should get something in return. Now, in this case, the customer is getting a shirt, whereas the company is getting payment. The company is getting 800 or 850 or 1000, whatever the amount is. So there we can say that it can be called as lawful consideration, because both the parties to the e-contract are getting something in return. Now, when we talk about lawful consideration, anything which is banned in the country or which is not regarded as legal thing to be say transacted in the country, if such transactions is taking place, say sale of drugs, sale of heroin, sale of any other banned product, if that takes place with the from an electronic portal, we cannot say that here also both the parties are getting something in return. The online portal or the company is getting money for that particular item, and the person or the customer is getting that particular item. If the item is not lawful, it cannot be converted into a electronic contract. So one of the essential element is that it should be lawful consideration should be present. Next one, intention to create legal relations. Again, that is also same what we had discussed in SEM 1, that there has to be intention to create legal relations. When we are going for transaction with some e-portal, that means there is an intention present. When we are selecting a product, when we are ready to pay for that particular product to the company, that means intention, legal intention is there. So that is very much same as we had discussed in the first semester. Next one, parties must be competent to contract. Both the parties must be competent to contract. Now, under competency, what comes is that both the parties should be major. Either of the party should not be minor. So again, this is also very much same as we had discussed there in the first semester. So we will not discuss in detail about this point also. Then the person who is making the e-contract, he should be mentally sound. A mad person, if he is entering into a contract with e-commerce site, suppose a person who has lost his mental balance, now he orders a particular product from Amazon, and when the product reaches that particular person, he refuses to take the delivery of that particular product. Now that particular product is perishable in nature, and as per the policy of the company, the person who has ordered that product has to receive that product. That particular facility was of cash on delivery. So when that particular dairy product, we can say it can be a dairy product or fresh vegetables which are perishable in nature, when that reaches to that particular customer who is not mentally sound, and when the delivery person conveys him about the rule that you have to now pay for this particular item, now that particular gentleman refuses, that he doesn't want that particular item, dairy product, and he will not pay for that particular item also. He is not ready to pay also. Now here in this case, the company cannot take this gentleman to the court of law, because the court will reject the application or case of the company under competency of parties. Now, competency here, it will be assumed by the court that one of the party to the contract was not competent to contract. So as the party was not competent to contract, it cannot be converted into a e-contract. When it cannot be converted into a e-contract, the party cannot claim compensation from that particular person. So that is the meaning of parties must be competent to contract. If either of the party is not competent to the contract, it cannot get converted into a e-contract. Next one, there must be free and genuine consent. So again, this is same thing what we had discussed in the first semester under free consent, that the party should be willing to do that particular transaction. If someone is forcing the party to enter into that particular transaction, then it cannot get converted into a e-contract. Next one, object of the contract must be lawful. That also again same, that the main object of the contract should be lawful. If the object of the contract is illegal, unlawful, then it cannot be converted into a contract. If a online portal is entering into betting, they do betting. So a person who puts his money on that particular betting, and if he loses the money, then also the person cannot claim compensation from that particular company. He can file a complaint, but he cannot claim compensation, because the law, it is not lawful. The object of that particular contract is not lawful. Next one, there must be certainty and possibility of performance. Again, this is very simple, and we had already discussed that there must be certainty and possibility of performance. That if a customer wants to purchase a shirt, he is supposed to select that shirt. He cannot just say that I want a shirt worth around 1,000 rupees. So this will be a vague statement. So he need to select a shirt. He need to select the size of that particular shirt, color of that particular shirt. Everything should be certain, then only it can be called as a valid e-contract. So these were the essentials of electronic contract. Now we will move on to cyber tribunals. Now, what is cyber? So cyber tribunals are to be constituted by the central government. The idea behind constituting these cyber tribunal is to try the cases related to cyber crime or frauds at the earliest. It should be settled at the earliest, because the present situation or the present scenario of courts, everyone is aware of that more than 3 crore cases are pending in the court. So if the case is referred to the civil or criminal court, it may take months and years together to get the settlement. To settle the cases related to cyber crimes and cyber frauds, the government came up with an idea that a cyber tribunal can be set up which will decide or which will settle these cases. Now here, only central government has been authorized to constitute this cyber tribunal. No state government has been authorized to constitute this cyber tribunal. So now we will talk about how the tribunals are established. Now, the central government, by notification, can establish one or more cyber appellate tribunal to be known as cyber tribunals. So it is up to the central government. It can constitute one cyber appellate tribunal. The meaning of the word appellate is the place or the machinery where appeal can be made by the aggrieved party. Meaning of aggrieved party is the party which has suffered losses, or the party which has suffered with cyber crime or cyber fraud. That party is called as aggrieved party. So this aggrieved party which has suffered loss under cyber crime or cyber fraud, this party is given an opportunity, a machinery where they can report, raise their complaint, and accordingly their complaint can be resolved by the appellate tribunal. So appellate tribunal, it can be one tribunal for the entire country, or it can be more than one tribunal for the entire country. It all depends upon the central government. Only the central government has been authorized to constitute these tribunals. Now we will talk about composition of these tribunals. Composition means constitution of this tribunal. That means how many officials are included in this tribunal, how they are appointed, that now we will be discussing. So cyber appellate tribunal consists of a chairperson and such a number of members as the central government may think fit. So it is as per the central government norms that the appellate authority, cyber appellate authority, shall consist of one chairman, and that chairman can be assisted by either 1, 2, or 3 people. Now the number of these people who will be assisting the chairman of cyber appellate authority or tribunal is to be decided by the central government. Now the selection of the appellate tribunal shall be made by the central government in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. Now, this is a very important clause which has been inserted, that the chairman of the appellate authority, appellate tribunal, as well as the members of the appellate tribunal, they are to be appointed by the central government, but the condition here, condition applies. The condition is the central government, in consultation with Chief Justice of India, can appoint these members. On their own, the central government is also not authorized to appoint the chairman as well as the members of Cyber Appellate Tribunal. Now, this particular condition was inserted in the act because the central government or the leaders of the central government or the members of the central government who are given this authority to constitute this cyber appellate tribunal may not be well versed with various laws, or they may not be well aware of the IT Act 2000. That is why it was thought that central government, being the supreme authority of the country, yes, they shall have this power to appoint the tribunal, but in consultation with the Chief Justice of India. So that is how the composition of cyber tribunal can be done. Now, the jurisdiction, powers, and authority of cyber appellate tribunal may be exercised by the benches. Now, these appellate tribunals are also known as benches. We had already discussed that it can be one tribunal or one bench which can be situated in New Delhi, as well as if the central government is of the opinion that more such tribunals shall be set up, then more tribunals can be set up by the central government, and they can be situated or they can be set up in the cities where the central government thinks that it is fit for their it is suitable for these benches to be situated in those cities. Now, the bench may be constituted by the chairman of cyber appellate tribunal with one or two members of such tribunal as the chairman may deem fit. Tribunal is to be constituted by the central government. If benches are constituted, then who shall be the member of that particular bench is to be decided by the chairman, whether one member is required or more than one member is required. It is to be decided by the government. Next one, the benches of cyber appellate tribunal shall sit at New Delhi and at such other places as the state central government, in consultation with the chairperson of cyber appellate tribunal, by notification in the official gazette specified. So this we had already discussed. If the central government is of the opinion that only one tribunal should be constituted, then only one will be constituted. If it feels that no, instead of one, more appellate tribunal shall be constituted, then more appellate tribunal shall be constituted. Now we will talk about the qualification for appointment as chairman and members of the appellate authority or appellate tribunal. A person shall not be qualified for appointment as a chairperson of cyber tribunal unless he now just a moment. Yes, sorry, because of some disturbance, we had to stop. Yes, we are talking about the qualification. So qualification for appointment as chairman and member of the Cyber Appellate Tribunal. A person shall not be qualified for appointment as chairperson of the Cyber Appellate Tribunal unless he is or has been or is qualified to be judge of a high court. Now, this is what is expected from the chairperson or the chairman or the tribunal member. What is expected is that he is or has been or is qualified to be a judge of a high court. So three options are given here. He is means that he is at present judge of a high court. So three options are available. One is that he is means presently the person is working as judge in a high court, or has been, it means that earlier he was working as a judge in the high court. It means now he has retired, but earlier he was judge of a high court. Next one, or is qualified to be. That means that right now the person is not working as the judge of the high court, or he is not a retired high court judge, but the person is qualified to be a high court judge. That means he has that educational qualifications with him, as well as the experience which is required for the appointment of a high court judge. So three options: that at present the chairman should be the judge of high court, or the chairman should be a retired high court judge, chairman as well as members, both, or the person should be eligible for the appointment of a high court judge. Then only that person can be appointed. Now, once the person is appointed, now again, this person is to be appointed by the central government. Terms of office: once the person is appointed as chairman or chairperson of the Cyber Appellate Tribunal, that person enjoys the office for a period of 5 years. That is the first condition, that the duration of office of the chairman as well as members of the Cyber Tribunal will be of 5 years, or the second qualification or second option is that when the person completes the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. Now, the judge who was of 62 years of age when he was appointed as the chairperson of the Cyber Appellate Tribunal, he cannot claim that as the duration of office of the chairperson or the members of the appellate authority, appellate tribunal is of 5 years, so he should retire at the age of 67. Once he completes the age of 65, automatically he gets retired and new appointment will take place. So he will be serving only for a period of 3 years. If a person is appointed at the age of 64 years, he will be serving the position only for 1 year. So two conditions are there. First condition is that the duration of the office will be of 5 years. Second condition is that when the person turns 65 years of age, he must retire from the office of appellate, cyber appellate tribunal. So whichever is earlier. Now, what is the functioning of this tribunal, or how appeal can be made in these tribunals? So any person who is aggrieved by an order of the controller. Now, controller, we had discussed the term controller, which is also called as controller of certifying authorities. What is the role and responsibilities of controller that we had discussed? We had also discussed that in case of any problem, any issue related to the digital signature certificate can be settled by the controller. Now, if the aggrieved party means the party which feels that it has suffered loss, or the party which feels that there has been injustice done, that party can move the tribunal if the party is not satisfied with the order of the controller of certifying authority in a particular matter. They are a party which is not satisfied with the order of controller can file a case or can file a complaint in the cyber appellate tribunal, and that will be called as appeal to cyber appellate tribunal. Now, there is a condition involved, and that condition is that within 45 days of the order of controller of certifying authority, within 45 days, the aggrieved party has to file a complaint with the cyber appellate tribunal. So, when the complaint was settled by the controller, and if that particular settlement or judgment or order of the tribunal was not acceptable to that particular aggrieved party, that aggrieved party is having an option that they can file a complaint with the cyber tribunal, cyber appellate tribunal, but they need to file this complaint within a period of 45 days, not after the period of 45 days. Now, here one option is available to the aggrieved party, and that option says that if delay can be justified by the aggrieved party, then after a period of 45 days also, please remember, the only option available to the aggrieved party is if the aggrieved party is able to justify the delay. Delay is they have lost already 45 days and they could not file a complaint with the appellate tribunal. So that is delay. So if they can justify this delay, why this has taken place, justification is acceptable, then we can say that it can be called as it can be entertained by their complaint can be entertained by the cyber appellate tribunal. Now we will move on to the powers of the appellate tribunal. Now, powers of the appellate tribunal under that, first power of the appellate tribunal is summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person and examining him on oath. So these powers are very general in nature. Most of the authorities which are appointed by the government for settlement of cases, these authorities are given these type of powers. So first power says summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person and examining him on oath. Now they have a power, the tribunal is having a power that they can summon. That means they can send a notice to a particular person whom they feel that yes, that person should be called as a witness and he should be examined. So that person can be called and he can be examined on oath. Examination of on oath, everyone is aware of that. Whatever the person or the person who has been called by the appellate authority, whatever he will be sharing, it has to be okay. Sorry, because of mistake, I got muted. Yes. So reviewing its decision means the decisions of the controller can be reviewed by the appellate tribunal. They are having a power that whatever decision which has been taken by the controller in a particular case, that decision can be reviewed, and either that decision can be accepted as it is, or some changes can be made in those in that particular decision, or that decision can be rejected and new decision can be shared by the appellate tribunal. Last one, dismissing an application for default or deciding it ex parte. Ex parte means whenever a case is filed in the tribunal, there has to be two parties. One party which feels that some injustice has been done to that particular party, and this particular party has some allegation against the other party. that because of this party, I have suffered some losses. So always two parties are there in a case. So ex parte means that after issuing summons, after issuing notices to both the parties to be present on the date of the hearing by the appellate tribunal, if one party continuously absents itself from that particular hearing, only aggrieved party is coming, the other party against whom the allegations were made by the aggrieved party. If that party constantly remains absent from the hearing at the appellate tribunal, then the tribunal can decide the case in the absence of that party also, and that is called as decision made ex parte. When one party is present, the other party is absent. For most of the dates of hearing, that particular party was absent. So court was unable to hear their stand as they were absent, irrespective of sending them number of notices or summons. If they are not making themselves present before the cyber appellate tribunal, then cyber appellate tribunal is having authority that it can decide a case ex parte also, and that is called as that is regarding the cyber appellate tribunal. Now tomorrow or maybe on Monday, when we will be having lecture, we will be talking about a very interesting topic which is called as hacking. What is hacking? What is ethical hacking? And what is reverse hacking? So that particular concept we will be discussing during our next lecture. So as we are coming near to the end of our time, only 5 minutes are remaining, so we will stop here. So during our next lecture, we will be discussing about the concept of hacking. So please study that particular concept. It will be better for understanding if we all come prepared, right? So thank you for attending today's session. We will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.